The massive lecture hall of the Galactic Academy fell silent as Professor Blue floated into the room. His translucent body glowed with gentle patterns of light that reflected off the polished walls. The professor's tentacles moved gracefully as he arranged his teaching materials in the air before him. "Today," he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber, "we begin the most challenging project of your academic careers." He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the diverse gathering of students. "You will study the most dangerous inhabited planet in known space, Earth." A wave of nervous whispers swept through the room. Several gaseous students condensed slightly in fear, while a crystalline being cracked audibly from stress. "Yes," Professor Blue continued, "I mean the Class 12 Deathworld that even our most advanced species avoid. Your task is to understand why Earth produces such resilient and feared life forms." The professor's display screen flickered to life, showing a swirling blue-green planet. "I've divided you into research teams. When I call your names, please move to your designated areas." Rock shifted uncomfortably in his crystalline form as he heard his name called. He watched as his teammates were named. Mist, a gaseous being who floated more than walked. Leaf, whose photosynthetic skin glowed softly. Shell, with clicking mechanical limbs. And Spark, who existed as pure energy contained within a special field. As they gathered at their assigned station, none of them spoke. They had never worked together before, and studying Earth seemed like a punishment rather than an assignment. "I can't believe we have to study that monster planet," Shell clicked, his outer casing rattling with anxiety. "My great-uncle tried to visit Earth once. He melted in something they call rain." Mist swirled nervously. "I heard they have something called wind that can throw solid objects through the air. How does a planet even survive with such chaos?" Rock, trying to stay positive, projected his thoughts to the group. "Maybe that's why we were chosen. We each represent different physical states. Together, we might understand how Earth's life forms cope with such extreme conditions." Leaf extended a branch-like limb toward the display screen, pointing at the swirling white patterns in Earth's atmosphere. "Those are water vapor clouds. On Earth, water exists in 3 states simultaneously." 3 states. How can anything evolve in such unstable conditions? Spark crackled with interest. "The database says Earth's dominant species, humans, are mostly liquid water themselves. They need constant temperature regulation, yet they've built civilizations in places where frozen water falls from the sky, and in regions hot enough to boil their bodily fluids." The team fell silent, processing this disturbing information. Their own worlds were carefully regulated, each species evolving in stable, controlled environments. The idea of life thriving in such chaos seemed impossible. Professor Blue floated to their station. "I see you're already discovering Earth's peculiarities. But here's your real challenge. You must explain why humans not only survive but dominate their death trap of a planet." "Professor," Mist ventured, "the records show failed colonization attempts by 17 different advanced species. How are we supposed to study a planet that kills almost everyone who visits?" The professor's patterns glowed brighter. "That's exactly why this project matters. Humans leave their planet regularly now. They're expanding, adapting to other worlds faster than anyone thought possible. We need to understand them before they spread further." As the professor moved away, Rock accessed the preliminary data on their screens. "Look at these atmospheric readings. The oxygen levels alone would cause spontaneous combustion on most worlds, and they call this optimal conditions." Shell's sensors twitched. "The gravity readings must be wrong. Nothing can function under that much constant pressure." "The readings are correct." Spark pulsed. "Humans develop dense internal support structures. They call them bones. They're so strong that falling from heights that would disperse any of us just damages them temporarily." Leaf's colors darkened with worry. "And they heal from this damage. Their cells actually repair major structural damage naturally." The team spent the rest of the session poring over Earth data, each discovery more alarming than the last. As the class ended, Rock gathered their initial findings. "So we agree," he summarized. "Earth is a planet of lethal temperature swings, crushing gravity, corrosive atmosphere, and unpredictable weather patterns. Yet humans consider these conditions perfect for life. No wonder the galaxy fears them." Mist swirled thoughtfully. "We've only scratched the surface. Tomorrow, we start learning about their food chain." The others shuddered collectively. None of them wanted to think about a species that could eat almost anything and convert it into energy. But they had no choice. Understanding Earth had become their mission, no matter how terrifying the truth might be. The research team gathered in their private study pod, floating screens surrounding them with Earth data. 3 days had passed since Professor Blue's assignment, and each new discovery left them more unsettled than the last. "I found something disturbing," Shell announced, his mechanical limbs tapping nervously on the floor. "Humans don't just survive their world's extremes. They seek them out for entertainment." Mist condensed slightly in confusion. "What do you mean?" Shell projected a series of images onto the main screen. "They climb frozen mountains for fun. They jump out of flying machines. They dive into deep water where pressure should crush them. They call these activities sports and adventures." "That's impossible." Leaf rustled, her leaves trembling. "No species deliberately seeks out lethal conditions. It goes against all survival instincts." Rock moved closer to the screens, his crystalline structure reflecting the images. "Look at this historical data. Humans have something they call exploration. They constantly push into new, more dangerous environments just to see what's there." Spark crackled with excitement. "I think I understand why. Their world changes so often that they evolve to be curious about dangerous situations. It helps them prepare for future threats." The team watched in horrified fascination as Shell played videos of human activities. They saw humans running through deserts, swimming in freezing oceans, and climbing sheer cliff faces. "Their young do this too," Mist observed, swirling anxiously. "Look, they have training areas called playgrounds where small humans deliberately fall, swing, and climb. They're practicing dangerous activities from an early age." Rock accessed another database. "It gets worse. Their entertainment includes simulated dangers. They create artificial experiences of fear and excitement. They call it thrill-seeking. But why haven't they destroyed themselves?" Leaf wondered. "Such risky behavior should have ended their species long ago." Spark pulsed thoughtfully. "I found something in their medical records. Humans have an internal repair system so efficient it seems impossible. They call it an immune system and healing factor. Their bodies actually become stronger after recovering from damage." The team processed this information in stunned silence. The idea of becoming stronger through damage violated everything they knew about survival. "There's more," Shell clicked, bringing up new data. "Their historical records show constant adaptation to new threats. When their environment becomes more dangerous, they don't die out. They evolve or create tools to deal with it." Mist expanded slightly. "I've been studying their atmospheric interactions. Humans can survive in almost any air mixture for short periods. They've even created portable environments to explore space. No other known species adapts their environment to themselves so effectively." "Speaking of environments," Rock projected, "look at their population distribution. They have permanent settlements in frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles, and even floating on their liquid oceans." Leaf's colors brightened with sudden understanding. "That's why the previous colonization attempts failed. Other species try to survive Earth by staying the same, but Earth demands constant change. Humans don't just survive change. They embrace it." The screens filled with images of human cities in every possible environment. From underwater research stations to mountaintop observatories, humans had found ways to live everywhere. "We need to update our research focus," Spark pulsed. "We've been asking why Earth is dangerous. We should be asking why humans are so good at dealing with danger." Shell's sensors whirred as he processed data. Their basic physical structure isn't even that impressive. They're not the strongest, fastest, or most durable species, but they might be the most adaptable. That's what makes them scary, Mist concluded. Most species would die if their world changed too much. Humans get excited about change. They call it opportunity. Rock began organizing their findings. So far, we've learned that Earth's harsh conditions created a species that 1. Seeks out challenges, 2. Gets stronger from surviving difficulties, 3. Adapts to new threats instead of avoiding them, 4. Treats dangerous situations as learning experiences. No wonder the galaxy fears them, Leaf whispered. They're not just surviving a death world, they're thriving because of it. And now they're leaving their planet, carrying that adaptability with them. The team looked at each other, realizing their research had only scratched the surface. Understanding humans meant understanding a species that had turned their world's deadliest features into their greatest strengths. And somewhere in that understanding lay the secret of why Earth, despite all its dangers, had produced the galaxy's most formidable species. The news spread through the Galactic Academy like a plasma storm. A human exchange student was arriving. The research team gathered near the arrival bay, their anxiety mixing with curiosity. None of them had ever seen a human in person before. Remember, Rock warned his teammates, no sudden movements. The human might see it as a threat. I heard they can detect the slightest motion. Shell clicked nervously. Their eyes process images faster than our best scanning equipment. The arrival bay's doors slid open, and the team froze. A human walked in, carrying what seemed like an impossibly heavy bag with one hand. The human, who introduced himself as Ray, looked around with obvious interest and smiled, displaying a row of bone-white teeth that made Shell's outer casing rattle. "Hi there," Ray called out, walking toward them. "Professor Blue said you'd be showing me around. I'm really excited to learn about different species." The team watched in horror as Ray casually walked through a patch of high gravity, meant to help heavy planet species move around. He didn't even seem to notice. "The artificial gravity doesn't bother you?" Mist asked, maintaining a safe distance. Ray looked down, surprised. "Oh, that? Nah, it's about the same as Earth's gravity. Maybe a bit lighter, actually. Nice and comfy." Leaf's colors paled. What they used as a mobility aid for heavy world species, the human considered comfy. Over the next few hours, the team guided Ray through the academy, watching with growing amazement as he violated seemingly every law of survival they knew. Ray walked through radiation zones protected only by a thin layer of cloth he called clothes. He drank water containing minerals that would have crystallized rock's internal structure. He even ate in front of them, a process that involved grinding solid matter between bones in his mouth before consuming it. "Would you like to try some?" Ray offered, holding out a brown rectangle he called chocolate. The team declined rapidly, trying to hide their horror at watching him casually consume foreign matter. Later, in the xenobiology lab, Ray's presence caused even more confusion. The human needed to rest periodically, something he called sitting down, but he could do this on almost any surface, regardless of temperature or composition. "Your environmental suit must be very advanced," Spark observed, noticing how Ray touched different materials without harm. "Suit? This is just regular clothing," Ray laughed. "Though I did pack a jacket in case it gets cold." "Cold?" Shell's sensors whirred in confusion. "You mean you intentionally brought protection against temperature drops? You planned for environmental changes?" "Well, yeah," Ray shrugged. "Better to have it and not need it, right? Though I can handle pretty much any temperature in here. The Academy's environmental controls are super stable. Almost boring, really." The team exchanged worried looks. Their carefully regulated environment, designed to accommodate hundreds of different species, was boring to the human. During their tour of the physical education area, they witnessed something even more disturbing. Ray saw other students practicing low-gravity movements and asked to join in. Before anyone could stop him, he launched himself into the air, moving with surprising grace. "This is awesome," he called down. It's like that time I went skydiving, but with more control. Sky diving? Leaf asked, dreading the answer. Yeah, jumping out of aircraft for fun. The free fall is amazing. Do you guys have anything like that here? The team watched as Ray continued to experiment with different gravity levels, treating potentially lethal conditions like a playground. When he accidentally hit his arm against a wall, they expected him to need immediate medical attention. Instead, he just rubbed the spot and continued exploring. Don't worry, he assured them, noticing their concern. It'll probably bruise a bit, but it's no big deal. I've had way worse playing sports back home. By the end of the day, the research team had gathered in their study pod, trying to process what they'd observed. He treats deadly environments like they're nothing, Mist swirled anxiously. Did you see how he just walked through that acidic vapor zone? That was a cleaning mist, Rock pointed out. But yes, it should have at least irritated his outer layer. He called our emergency oxygen-rich atmosphere fresh air, Shell added, and he said he likes to exercise in it. Most concerning, Spark pulsed, is his constant adaptation. He adjusts to new conditions almost instantly, without needing any preparation time. Leaf's colors had darkened with worry. We've been studying Earth's effects on its species, but seeing it in person, they're not just surviving there. That planet turned them into something entirely new. As they compiled their observations, one thing became clear. No amount of research could have prepared them for the reality of meeting a human. Earth hadn't just created a resistant species. It had forged a being that treated the galaxy's deadliest conditions as minor inconveniences. And Ray was just one example of his species. There were billions more back on Earth, all just as adaptable, all just as fearless in the face of conditions that would kill most life forms. The galaxy's fear of Earth suddenly made much more sense. The warning sirens caught everyone by surprise. Red lights flashed through the Academy's corridors as the emergency system announced. Attention all beings. Solar radiation shield malfunction detected. Shelter protocols in effect. Ray was in the study pod with the research team when the alerts began. While the aliens froze in panic, he immediately checked the environmental readings on the nearest screen. That's a big solar flare heading our way, he said, surprisingly calm. Those shield readings don't look good. We should get everyone to the lower levels. Shell's mechanical limbs clicked rapidly in distress. The emergency transport tubes are shutting down to conserve power. Many students can't move quickly without them. Ray was already moving. Then we'll help them. Where are the nearest emergency shelter points? Spark pulsed with urgent information. Level 3 has the strongest radiation shielding, but the lifts are locked down. The stairs aren't safe for most species under normal conditions, let alone during an emergency. We'll make them safe, Ray said, grabbing emergency support rails from a wall storage unit. Rock, you're solid enough to help me carry some of the crystalline students. Mist, you can guide the gaseous species through the safe corridors. Shell, use your sensors to detect radiation leaks. Leaf, your photosynthetic abilities can help spot anyone hiding in dark corners. Spark, your energy form can help power emergency lights. The team stared at him for a moment, surprised by his instant shift into crisis mode. A violent shudder through the station spurred them into action. Ray moved with shocking speed and strength. He picked up a crystalline student who had cracked from stress, carefully wrapping them in protective padding before carrying them down the emergency stairs. The student was easily twice his mass, but he handled the weight as if it was nothing. How are you functioning in this radiation? Mist asked while guiding a group of gaseous students through a safe corridor. Earth's magnetic field is pretty weak compared to other planets, Ray explained, already heading back up for more students. We're used to dealing with solar radiation. This is stronger than Earth normal, but not enough to stop me. The team watched in amazement as Ray made trip after trip, carrying students who couldn't move on their own. His skin began to redden from radiation exposure, but he didn't slow down. You're taking damage, Shell warned, sensors detecting changes in Ray's cellular structure. Just a bit of sunburn, Ray grunted, helping the silicon-based student down the stairs. I'll heal. Keep moving. On his sixth trip up, Ray found a group of energy beings trapped behind a fallen support beam. Without hesitation, he gripped the massive metal bar and lifted it enough for them to escape. The effort made his muscles shake and sweat poured down his face, but he held it until everyone was clear. That's impossible, Rock projected, watching Ray's display of strength. The gravity here is fluctuating wildly. You shouldn't be able to lift that mass. Different muscle structure, Ray gasped, finally dropping the beam. Humans are built for variable gravity. Makes us pretty good at emergency lifting. As the last students reached the shelter, the team noticed Ray's skin was now an angry red, and he was breathing heavily. Yet he insisted on doing one final sweep of the upper levels. Your cellular structure is showing serious radiation effects, Spark reported, scanning him. You need medical attention. After we're sure everyone's safe, Ray insisted. Besides, human cells replace themselves pretty quickly. I'll be fine in a few days. When the all-clear finally sounded hours later, the evacuation teams reported no serious injuries or losses. The Academy's medical staff were amazed by the efficiency of the rescue effort. Back in their study pod, the research team watched Ray apply something he called aloe vera to his reddened skin. I don't understand, Leaf said. You knew the radiation would harm you, but you kept going back. Of course, Ray replied, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Everyone needed help. On Earth, we have a saying, you do what needs to be done. The team shared concerned looks. They had just witnessed why humans were so feared, not because they were invincible, but because they would push through their own physical limits to achieve their goals. The radiation burns would heal, but the memory of watching a human ignore their own safety to help others would stay with them forever. Your species is classified as a Class 12 threat, Shell noted, but none of our data mentioned this behavior. Why isn't it in the reports? Ray smiled, despite his obvious discomfort. Maybe because it's not a special ability or a unique trait. It's just being human. When things go wrong, we help. That's all there is to it. The team realized they had discovered something their research had missed. Earth hadn't just created tough survivors. It had forged beings who would face any danger to help others. Perhaps that was the most terrifying thing about humans. Their strength wasn't just in their bodies, but in their unshakable will to protect those around them. The Academy's holographic simulation chamber hummed to life as the research team prepared for their most ambitious experiment yet. After witnessing Ray's actions during the solar flare incident, they had convinced him to help them create an accurate Earth simulation. Are you sure about these settings? Shell asked, his mechanical limbs twitching as he reviewed the numbers. These weather patterns seem random and chaotic. That's normal for Earth, Ray explained, adjusting the controls. We'll start with what I'd call a mild spring day. Nothing too extreme. The team watched as the chamber transformed around them. The temperature fluctuated between what Ray called cool and warm. Wind moved in unpredictable patterns. The light intensity changed as simulated clouds passed overhead. This is mild. Mist swirled anxiously, condensing slightly as a breeze passed through them. The atmospheric pressure keeps changing. Ray nodded cheerfully. Yep. Perfect picnic weather. Want to try walking around in it? One by one, the team members attempted to function in Earth conditions. Rock moved first, his crystalline form creaking under the varying pressures. He managed 3 steps before a slight temperature change made his outer layer crack. I didn't even make it to the simulated grass, Rock projected, retreating quickly. How do you handle these constant changes? Leaf tried next, extending her branches into the simulated sunlight. The varying light intensity and shifting wind patterns made her dizzy. The energy input is too irregular. I can't maintain stable photosynthesis. Shell's attempt ended when a light rain shower started. The water. He clicked in panic, rushing back to safety. It falls from above without warning. How do you predict these attacks? Attacks. Ray laughed. Rain is great. Really helps clear the air and water the plants. Plus, it makes everything smell nice after. Mist's attempt was particularly brief. The shifting air currents nearly dispersed their gaseous form. Your atmosphere is actively trying to tear us apart. Spark refused to even enter the simulation after seeing the others' reactions. The electrical potential in your atmosphere is constantly changing. One wrong move and I could be grounded. Ray walked through the simulation, completely at ease. He sat on a simulated rock, lay in the grass, and even splashed in a puddle. Come on, this is nothing. I haven't even added insects or temperature extremes yet. There's more. Shell's sensors whirred in disbelief. Oh yeah, Ray grinned. This is just basic weather. Wait until you see what happens when seasons change, or during what we call storm season. The teen watched in horrified fascination as Ray had the simulation demonstrate more Earth conditions. They saw storms with powerful winds, heavy rain, and shocking displays of lightning. They witnessed temperature swings that would shatter rock's form and humidity changes that would destabilize Mist's entire being. And you just live in this. Leaf's colors had faded from stress just watching. We adapt, Ray shrugged. Humans are pretty good at dealing with change. Plus, we've created tools and shelters to help us handle the extremes. Tools. Shell clicked curiously. Like environmental suits. Sometimes, but mostly simple stuff. Clothes, umbrellas, heaters, air conditioning. Nothing fancy. The teen was stunned. Humans didn't even try to fully control their environment. They just created basic tools and adapted themselves to handle the rest. Let me show you something really fun, Ray said, adjusting the simulation. The scene changed to a snowy mountain landscape. This is where I learned to ski last winter. You willingly went to a place covered in frozen water. Rock projected in disbelief. For entertainment. Yeah, the cold air is super refreshing, and sliding down the mountain is amazing. You feel so free. The teen watched as Ray demonstrated skiing in the simulation, deliberately throwing himself down a frozen slope at high speed. He fell several times, got covered in snow, and kept going with a smile on his face. I think I finally understand. Spark pulsed thoughtfully. Earth didn't just make humans tough. It made them embrace chaos. They don't just survive their world's extremes. They find ways to enjoy them. Ray nodded, brushing simulated snow off his clothes. Life's more fun when you learn to dance with danger a little. Hey, want to see what we call a water park? It's like weaponized fun with H2O. The team declined rapidly, but they had learned something crucial. Humans weren't just adapted to Earth's deadly conditions. They had turned those very dangers into sources of joy. How could any species hope to threaten beings who looked at lethal environments and thought, I could have fun here? Professor Blue's classroom buzzed with excitement as the research team prepared to share their latest findings. After weeks of studying Earth and observing Ray, they had discovered something that changed everything they thought they knew about Deathworlds. Look at this data. Shell clicked excitedly, projecting a complex chart. We've been wrong about Earth's classification this whole time. The team gathered around as Shell explained. Most deadly planets have one or two extreme features: too much gravity, toxic atmosphere, or unstable temperatures. But Earth has all of these at once, plus something we never considered before. Variation, Rock projected. Other Deathworlds are consistently deadly. Earth is unpredictably deadly. Ray sat with them, adding his own insights. Back home, we have a saying: if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It's kind of a joke, but it's also true. Leaf's colors brightened with understanding. That's what makes Earth unique. Most species evolve to handle specific threats, but Earth's threats keep changing. Exactly, Mist swirled enthusiastically. We found records of 17 failed colonization attempts on Earth. Each species came prepared for certain conditions, but Earth threw something unexpected at them. They pulled up images from the failed colonies. One species had developed perfect protection against Earth's gravity, only to be destroyed by a sudden temperature shift. Another could handle the temperature changes but was torn apart by windstorms. A third survived the storms but couldn't handle the varying oxygen levels. But humans, spark-pulsed, don't specialize in surviving any single threat. They adapt to all of them. Ray nodded. We have to. Earth doesn't give us a choice. One day you're dealing with freezing cold. The next day, it's boiling hot. You either adapt or you don't make it. The team shared their personal observations. Shell described how humans could eat almost anything, breaking down and extracting energy from substances that would poison most species. Mist explained how human bodies automatically adjusted to pressure changes that would disperse most gaseous beings. Their cellular structure is fascinating, Spark added. It's not particularly strong in any one way, but it can change and repair itself to handle almost any damage. That's why their wounds heal, Rock projected. Their bodies don't just repair damage. They rebuild themselves stronger than before. Leaf had been studying human history. They've survived everything their world has thrown at them. Ice ages, natural disasters, massive climate shifts. Each time, they came back stronger. And now they're leaving Earth. Shell clicked nervously, taking that adaptability to other worlds. Ray looked surprised. Well, yeah, space is just another frontier to explore. Sure, it's dangerous, but so is everything worth doing. The team watched as Ray casually took a bite of his lunch, a process that involved casually mixing substances that would kill most species, chewing them with hard bone structures in his mouth, and dissolving them in acid inside his body. Do you realize, Mist asked, that just your eating process would be classified as a weapon on most worlds? Ray nearly choked on his sandwich, laughing. Really? But it's just a turkey sandwich. Wait until you see what happens at a barbecue competition. The team spent the next hour listening in horror as Ray described various Earth cooking methods. Apparently, humans regularly set food on fire, exposed it to radiation, or intentionally let it rot in specific ways, all to make it taste better. I think I understand now, Spark pulsed quietly. Earth isn't just a death world because it's dangerous. It's a death world because it forced its life forms to become dangerous just to survive normal conditions. Shell's sensors whirred in agreement. Humans don't even realize how terrifying they are. Everything that would kill us is just Tuesday for them. And that's the real reason Earth is classified as it is, Rock projected. Not because humans are monsters, but because they made peace with living in monstrous conditions. The team looked at their research notes with new eyes. They had started this project trying to understand why Earth was feared. Now they realized that wasn't the right question. The real question was, how had Earth's challenges created a species so adaptable that the very concept of impossible meant nothing to them? Ray finished his sandwich, completely unaware of how his casual lunch had terrified his friends. Hey, want to see pictures from my vacation to Death Valley? The acid lakes there are beautiful this time of year. The team declined, but they had learned their most important lesson yet. Humans weren't dangerous because they were powerful. They were dangerous because nothing in the galaxy could prepare you for a species that looked at the most hostile environments and thought, I wonder what else is out there to explore. The Academy's main auditorium was packed with students and faculty from across the galaxy. The research team stood on stage, their presentation screens floating behind them. In the front row, Ray gave them an encouraging thumbs up. Rock moved forward first, his crystalline form reflecting the stage lights. We gathered here today to present our findings about Earth. What we discovered will change how we view not just Earth, but the entire concept of death worlds. Mist swirled forward. Our traditional classification system for deadly planets is based on measuring specific threats: gravity, temperature, atmospheric toxicity. Earth breaks this system because it has all these threats, and they constantly change. The audience murmured as Shell displayed their data. Previous studies focused on Earth's dangers, But we discovered something more important: how these dangers shaped its dominant species. Leaf's colors shifted with excitement as she spoke. Humans don't just survive Earth's conditions. They adapted to use them. Where we see threats, they see opportunities. What we call deadly, they call challenging. The screen showed videos of human activities: mountain climbing, deep sea diving, desert racing. The audience watched in stunned silence as humans casually entered environments that would kill most species. But here's what really matters: spark pulsed brightly. Humans didn't become the strongest or toughest species. They became the most adaptable. Shell's mechanical limbs moved gracefully as he operated the display. Look at their physical structure. Not particularly strong, not exceptionally fast, but they can survive almost anywhere. Their bodies heal and grow stronger from damage. They eat almost anything. They sleep anywhere. During our research, Rock projected, we experienced a solar flare crisis. We watched our human friend ignore radiation damage to help others. He called his burns no big deal and kept working until everyone was safe. Mist expanded slightly. We tried living in simulated Earth conditions. None of us lasted more than a few minutes. Humans call these conditions perfect weather and go outside to play in them. The audience gasped as Leaf displayed images of human cities. They built settlements and frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles, and even floating on oceans. When they can't survive somewhere, they don't give up. They create tools and change themselves to make it work. But most importantly, spark pulsed, humans aren't aggressive predators. They're explorers. They don't want to conquer hostile environments. They want to understand them. Ray stood up suddenly, drawing everyone's attention. Could I add something? The team nodded, and Ray walked onto the stage. The audience shifted nervously as the human moved closer. I've been listening to my friends talk about Earth like it's some kind of monster planet, Ray said, smiling. But you know what? Every planet has its challenges. Earth just taught us to face them head on. He pointed to the images of Earth. See that mountain? My grandmother climbed it when she was 60. That desert. Kids go camping there for fun. Those storms. We have festivals during them. Earth didn't make us tough. It made us curious. The audience was silent as Ray continued. You call Earth a death world. We call it home. You see dangers everywhere. We see beauty, adventure, and chances to learn. Maybe that's the real difference. Rock moved forward again. Our conclusion is this: Earth isn't feared because it's deadly. It's feared because it created a species that looks at the deadliest places in the galaxy and asks, what can we learn here? The old reports were wrong. Shell clicked. Humans aren't unstoppable warriors. They're unstoppable learners. They don't want to fight the galaxy. They want to explore it, understand it, and maybe even find new ways to enjoy it. Mist swirled thoughtfully. Perhaps we should change Earth's classification. It's not just a death world. It's a learning world. A world that taught its children to embrace challenges, adapt to problems, and never stop exploring. The presentation ended with an image that made the audience gasp. Ray teaching the research team to play in the rain in a controlled environment. The image showed fear turning to joy as they discovered that sometimes the most frightening things could become the most fun. Professor Blue floated onto the stage, his patterns glowing brightly. This team has shown us something remarkable. We feared Earth because we didn't understand it. But through understanding, fear can become friendship. The audience erupted in applause, and Ray grinned at his teammates. So, he whispered, who's up for learning how to swim next week? The team looked at each other, then back at Ray. Maybe it was time to stop fearing Earth's challenges and start learning from them instead. After all, if a death world could create someone like Ray, maybe its lessons were worth learning.